Hi, David Boje here, doing a meditation and some free verse on a fellow named Hassabis. Now, Hassabis, you probably know him from Gemini or DeepMind. And let me just tell you, the verse without rehearse. So Hassabis could play chess like no other. He was a child prodigy. And becoming the chess master, he looked around and said, why am I playing a game when I can think real life like chess? So he thought about the problems that were there. And when we get there, I'll show you the three big branches swooping up of this tree. Each of the AIs has a tree. And I want to just give you an overview right at the start before I lose my heart. So interesting. This will be kind of a rant, but we can't rant about thinking, can we? It's about Hassabis and my mentor, Louis Pondy, two of the most brilliant minds that ever were. John Dewey figures in there, and so does Martin Heidegger. It turned out they wrote about how to think. And when John Dewey wrote his book, let me find the date for you. You know, I had this memory palace of a mind once upon a time. And I could remember anything, ace any class, even if it was economics or math. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll have to fill in the date. There's a memory palace has gone the way of Alice in Wonderland. Let me explain. Yesterday, I lamented in the Growth OD breakout that the mind is going. I can't think like I used to think. I can't recall whatever it was called. And it's a function of age, I guess. But am I any less? So what I'm doing here, jogging in the sunrise up over the Caballo Mountains, the white light shining down from my crown through my soul, to the roots from the earth up to the universe. So I am not soulless. I might not be able to have what Ivan Illich, Illich, in the most wonderful book not that I ever read, but it's right up there in the top 10. It's called In the Vineyard of the Text. Some things you don't know about thinking unless you've read the book. Ivan Ilyich said, in the time of the scriptorium, where the scribes were writing the Bible. Remember the Gutenberg Bible as a theme in this book. So you're on that hook. Did you know that unless people were in community, they couldn't read? Did you know unless in the community they rocked back and forth, they could not read? Did you know the punishment for a monk was to let them be alone? Because they could not read. Why couldn't they read? Because they didn't have this screen I'm looking into now. They didn't have the screen, so they couldn't read. The other thing that was happening is books and manuscripts, other than the Gutenberg Bible and the Bible before that, they didn't have a title. They didn't have chapters. The words run together without spaces. Now we got spaces and places to pause. But that time it was like the machine code of a computer. It was just on one big run-on sentence from beginning to end of the whole manuscript. That's conscripted. That's a prison. So as we approach the tree, let us reflect on this CEO. I'll show you the three branches when we get there. The big one. Probably more dramatic effect if I waited, but what the heck. One branch, scientific discovery. Another branch, commercial applications branch. Another branch, military applications. So this Hassabis was the chess master. So if we ask how he thinks, it's rather soulless. If you've tried Gemini, you probably know this. It calculates, but it got in trouble with Google because the images it created were more than a doodle. They tampered with history in the name of diversity and produced absurdity. Now, when I studied Bondi, he taught me to think. The first rule of inthinkment is it's not a stinkment like a chess match. Inthinkment is not bounded rationality. I drew it out to enunciate it. So what is bounded rationality? Well, my whole field grew up in it. There were those that said we could calculate and come up with the most rational alternative. I was such a dupe for this on the stoop, the University of Illinois. I had been trained in community college in bounded rationality. It's like the way in which I learned critical path analysis. Most of you probably don't know, not in the know, but it's a very calculative chess match kind of thing. And you're matching all these different schedules, all these different deliverables that are coming in space and in time. So you don't get to rhyme. No rhyme at all. It's efficiency. It's bounded rationality. So the way an organization works is it's boundedly rational until it's not. And the people are expected to be boundedly rational, but they're not. And the hierarchy is supposed to manage the internal bounded rationality and the boundary spanners that dip their toe into the chaos of the environment and then run to tell their boss about the loss. Anyway, let's get on with it. So what Louis Pondy taught me was called the koan. It's a Zen thing. Remember, we cried when reading The Art of Zen and the Motorcycle Maintenance, because we could see right there the mechanistic, calculative approach of the chess master, building the three divisions of organization. And here's the challenge that was given to me. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Louis Pondy would challenge me. And I would wave one hand by my ear. I could feel the wind, but not the sound. I could clap it on the desk, but that wasn't the answer to suggest. So then years go by, another koan comes before I die. And it says, if a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? Who's anyone? I mean, certainly the birds hear it. Even the fish feel the vibrations of a tree that's 60 feet high falling down. I'm going to give you a picture of these trees as we approach them. You can see how high they are. I'd say about 50, 60 feet. And on this end on the left, there's something I didn't notice before. One of the trees is all but dead. That's a lot of dread. Notice how I put that one to the side, turn my back on it. But let's be a spy. Find the one with the three branches. Shouldn't be hard to spot. Ah, here they are, right there. One, scientific discovery, commercial applications, military applications. Oh, on the military application branch is another very dead branch. I hope you can see the dead branch there. and the second dead branch. So why is that? And the scientific application is so scrawny compared to what's going on in the bounded rational commercial branch and the big military branch. So there we have it. So I'm going to go over here on the stool, the log, which, by the way, is no tool. And here's the rusty nail. Someone drove into it for no good reason. So let's see if we can get something happening here. So Pandi only used the word enthingment once in his life. But in 1979 and again in 1995, Carl Weick pulled the term out of retirement, laughament, and ridiculed it once more. I don't like it when anyone ridicules Louis Ralph Bondy. And I have taken up the challenge. The enthingment word, it's like thinking from the heart is thinking with a soul. Now, if you don't have a soul, if you're non-sentient, then you can't do enthingment. I'm sorry. So my memory palace is flickering. You know, the ability to store in my mind. That's the other thing from Ivan Ilyich is you store in your mind all the rooms of a mansion and maybe the surrounding community, maybe a deep well, maybe a horse with a pack. Anyway, you go in the door and on the ground floor, it's like a Tomorrowland. Not Tomorrowland, Tomorrowland. And there's a bureau in the ante room, and you open it, and in there, maybe you have the memories of certain objects to remind you of a legal case you have to address, or some thinking you have to do. And you open another drawer, and there's a cross, there's a pyramid, there's some other artifacts, and maybe there's a miniature of a 3-branch tree with some dead branches on the military activity. That's what we're looking at. Now, I saw Pandi shed a tear twice. First, reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And we loved the first part of the book. It was experiential. It was a father reuniting with his son. It had these descriptions of the mechanistic side of a motorcycle and this was no hog, H-A-W-G, but it seemed to have a life. But the second half of the book degenerated into a lot of Greek claptrap. And so we didn't like that part at all. The second time I saw this happen was a tear, well, a lot of tears, when Louis Pondy got the rejection letter from Carl Weick about his Beyond Open Systems paper saying it was cute. It was from the cute school. Cute, you loot. Missed the whole point. That's the trouble with enactment people. They think it's all about the 5 senses and we sense things in the chaos and buzz and confusion that William James talked about. But William James had a lot of other books too, not just the psychobabble, but it was the book about the rabble of the mystics. So that's a book that enactment people never read, nor does Hassabis. Now, Yeah, I'm losing my intelligence with age. I'm no longer boundedly rational. I no longer compute the Gantt chart, the critical path analysis, that rational calculation. I'm lost in the cones, the sound of one hand clapping, this tree that falls. So this tree, you can't see behind this other tree, but if it falls in the woods, who will hear it other than me? You can't think with perfect memory. So here we are in chapter 3 with a tree with 3 branches. So Hassabis solved chess puzzles, became a master at a very young age, a prodigy. Then he said, enough playing games. Let me go on to play with real life. So then he did something with amino acids and got the Nobel Prize, and then said, I want to form the DeepMind, and I want to do the 3-branch tree. So he did. Gemini, you've probably used it. Maybe you've abused it. So, so this chess master tries to master natural intelligence, goes back into university, something to do with neuroscience majors and how the brain works. And he wants to duplicate the brain in AI so that it can go and spy. But in 2024, Google met his match and suspended Gemini for making these really weird images that had a lot of historical diversity in them, but were historically inaccurate. And all the historians complained and complained until Google said, all right, we're pulling Gemini. Now, if you try to get Gemini to do free verse, it'll do it, but it's calculated, it's competent, but it's soulless. And that's the whole point in my verse, because with Pondy, we were bringing mind back in so that we could achieve something. And I'll tell you about it in a minute, as soon as it comes back into my memory. It's gone for now. So here we have these 4 players on the stage: John Dewey, Louis Pondy, Martin Heidegger, Hassabis. What is his first name anyway? So we have Dewey, 1910, How We Think. And then by 1929, he's persuaded by Heisenberg's German publication, which he read right away before it was ever translated, went to Scotland, gave a really eminent lecture on why we have to do the uncertainty principle and the observer effect from quantum physics. So he was the first quantum storyteller, right? He's abusing the physics, by the way, but never mind. And the thing that Dewey understands is the democracy of points of view. And that's something that Gemini just doesn't get and can't even forget. So Anekatavada in Jainism is that idea that it's not our right to send every other point of view to the gallows in a plight. No, it's rude and crude to object to another point of view. Even the scientific point of view, the Gemini calculator, they can't do free verse. Well, it's one point of view. But wedded to the military and the commercial and the scientific community, well, I know that the scientists of deep, deep mind, the technicians, maybe everyone, 98% of them signed on for a union. Maybe it's 96%. Go figure. So, what is enthingment? It's the tier of conscience. What is how we think when we bring in the quantum storytelling? It's conscience with a heart, right? And that doesn't fit the experiment of the double slit. Somehow the heart doesn't make it into the slit at all. So my memory palace may be flickering, but I know a 3-branch tree when I see one. And now it's time for me not to be one. And I want to tell you just the final story. Another tear that Pondy shed, and I wasn't there. It was the 1986 August Academy of Management meeting. And I wrote a book about all of this, the different ways we think. And wow, I'm looking at this tree leaning here. I got to show you. Somebody cut it all the way through, and it's not alive. It's dead. It's leaning here against another tree. It's outside the circle. First tree in the circle, one burned. It had 2 trunks, but one burned. What a hunk. And then we have the 3 tree. So what is the sound of this tree falling in the woods? Well, I think it had to be like the 1986 Academy of Management. Louis Ralph Bondy, best known for his conflict article and how to manage conflict so it doesn't manifest in a meeting and everybody's bleeding. The latent conflict, the felt, the perceived, all the different kinds of conflicts circling in the meeting. And Pondy's got the idea that organizations are cooperative, open systems, but they're beyond open systems, not in a good way. I got to run back, give my horse Fancy some hay. Okay, so here's the thing. He stands there and essentially says, I must confess the article that got me my fame and was the reason I became associate editor of Administrative Science Quarterly. And they published it wrong. They left out one of the loops, by the way, but never mind. Read Boje's book and you can figure that out. It's co-authored with Ronnie Sailors, by the way, who took my garble and unscrabbled it. Anyway, so Pondy's there confessing, and I'm sure the tears are rolling down his cheek. And very inappropriate in the bounded rationality of an Academy of Management. Bleep, 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 says the sheep. Delete, 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 says Hassabis and his 3-branch tree. Flees from the soul, flees from conscience, flees from the heart. What a fart. Sorry, no ill will intended. It's about the will to think without a heart. That's why I said there must be a fart. WTF? Am I down the abyss of the F words again? I better stop. This old fart has a heart.